What is my favourite food?
I like spicy food. I like Chinese, Thai, Indian, ethnic foods.
Something simple. Maybe a noodle dish, something like that, nothing too complicated.
The IMS is focused on obesity and its adverse consequence for health. And I guess you can divide the sorts of questions we ask into two. One is, why are some people fat and some people lean? And the second question is, why, when some people get fat, do they get diabetes and heart disease and other disorders? Obesity is really a rather extraordinary condition. I'm always puzzled by the sort of stigma attached to it.
We are studying patients with severe obesity who are referred to us by doctors from around the country, in fact around the world. And what we're trying to do is work out if we can find the genes that are responsible for the obesity in those patients. Then if we find those genetic abnormalities, we want to see why that particular change in a gene is stopping the gene from doing its job.
We're a species who've overcome a lot of famines. So every 4 or 5 years, a third of the population would die of famine during our evolution. So we have an appetite too big for our needs in a civilized society where there's a supermarket at every corner.
We know that for all of us, regardless of our body weight, whether we're slim, whether we're slightly overweight, or whether we're severely obese, 40 to 70% of our weight is determined by genetic factors. So it's important for all of us. It determines the weight that we end up at in a given environment. And usually these genes work by disrupting the control of appetite. Our work has really allowed us to say to the families, look, we always knew there was some reason for your obesity, now we've found it.
When you see people suffering from obesity, really sad that they're so overweight, really trying to lose weight with nasty diseases consequential on their overweight, you want to help them. Rather than going for massive self-control and spending days jogging in the freezing snow, I'd rather have something to reduce my appetite to make it correct for today's environment. That's why my team works on an appetite reduction medication.
So when a lean person sits back and says, that person must be a self-indulgent pig because they're huge and they're eating too much, they have no idea that the inherent drive that they think they share with that person is similar. It's totally different in terms of its intensity and drive.
Quite a lot of the obesity that we see is driven by the environment, but it's always working with the genes. One disorder is called leptin deficiency, and the lack of this gene results in the lack of a hormone in the blood, which then should normally control your appetite, and when it doesn't, the children become severely obese. And that disorder we have treated successfully, and those children are now entirely fine. So really what we'd like to do is for the other genes that we're finding to try and take them forward to treatment. That's the whole goal of our work.
Our research is to discover why you feel full after eating a meal. And we discovered it was because there were specific hormonal signals coming from the gut which told the brain the gut was full of food, don't eat any more food. Having found that there were specific hormones which switched off appetite, we wanted to make them useful for controlling appetite in people who are overweight. If we succeed in our research, we should be able to make obesity a thing of the past.
I think it's both unfeasible and unnecessary to consider that we need to obliterate obesity from the world. I think we need to look at those issues and look at the issues of food regulation and continuous food availability, and generally try and stop the gradual shift upwards of weight. We can't just rely on some vague promise that we'll all behave better and be less fat tomorrow, and we can ignore this major metabolic and disease problem now.
What's my favourite food? I like a good curry, actually. Yeah.
Pickled fish?
Pickled fish?
Homegrown basil pesto made by my wife.